So welcome everyone to the third of our series of Journey in Regen Ag local farmer Raywood, Greater Bendigo. In starting, I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners. For me, it's the Dja Dja Wurrung, but I also want to acknowledge those that are joining us tonight and those that might join the recording, and wish to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging for whichever land you are watching this on. I also want to particularly acknowledge that those of traditional owners that may be joining us as well, and pay my respects to them. So, as I said, this is the third in the series of the Journey in Regen Ag, and tonight it's with Aaron Demeo, if I've got that right. I always struggle a bit. Aaron, is that right, isn't it?
Demeo.
Demeo. I knew I'd get it wrong. I've got it right a few times, but I got it wrong that time. Sorry. And yeah, and Aaron, can you just share a little bit about the place for a start?
Yeah, so I suppose as it sort of says on the screen there, of the third generation on this farm now. So my grandfather would have bought the original part back just before 1960, I think it was. So that's about 70 odd years ago. Then yeah, my father would have added a little bit more onto that, and now I'm the third generation in. So we've got about 1,000 hectares all up. So it's sort of a loamy red duplex soil. And I farm this with my wife Lisa and with a couple of kids as well. And my parents are still on the farm at the moment, but they've got plans to move elsewhere. So that'll be a bit of a change coming up. We're a self-replacing merino flocks, and we obviously join our culls to white Suffolk rams for fat lambs. So we've got about 1,000 ewes. We also do some contract dairy raising, so that can be a little bit ad hoc. So we do that as if the season presents itself well. At the moment, we've actually got 200 on, so we've got a fair few on at the moment. We normally probably wouldn't run that many, but we've had a good couple of years. So, and we've got a bit of cheap hay about too, so we're just using that. And and also do some cropping. So we do the canola, wheat, barley, vetch, hay, oats for grain, and do a little bit of cover fodder cropping as well. So.
And so just a little bit of context for where Raywood is for those that don't know. It's north of Bendigo. The temperature is that 12 in wintertime to 30 is the mean, which, and the mean minimum is 3 through to 14. But of course, looking at the data, it goes from -5 to 45 degrees in summer. So has a massive variety of temperatures there. Annual rainfall, it's got 120 years worth of rainfall data at Raywood. So not very far away from the farm, with an annual rainfall of 433 millimetres. And as you can see there, roughly that inch of rain from December through to April, and then an inch and a half of rain through the other sort of six months of the year. But as you're probably aware, that means and averages don't mean a lot. They can change fairly quickly. So what would you think, Aaron? What does that ring true? What's happening there?
So I suppose I guess our main rainfall months are from May to September. Our springs usually do cut out a little bit, but we've had a good couple of years recently, and we can get the odd summer rainfall that we would like to take advantage of where we can. So it's fairly variable, but Yeah.
So really that summer storm that can come through is really what's driving that sort of inch of rain through those summer months.
Yeah, it's definitely not consistently getting that. So
Yeah. So Raywood's up here with that yellow arrow is. Here is a satellite photo of the farm. So Aaron's told us that they've been on there for 60 odd years. Sort of tell us a little bit about, you know, what you've moved on to and what sort of property you started off with when you started managing the property.
So yeah, we've just been back. As a business, as a partnership ourselves for the last 5 years. So prior to that, I was with the City of Greater Bendigo on the Parks crew. So I was doing that for 7 years, and then I was on the farm prior to that, just sort of as basically as a labourer for Dad, so helping him out there. We stepped away for a little bit, and we in between the time on the farm, we did buy 140 acres of our own, which we built a house on and everything like that. So we sort of always had a bit of land to play around with, and sort of it was good to just have your own bit of property and do what you wanted with it. So, and now we've sort of come back and we're running the business ourselves, and Mum and Dad stepping away, and we're stepping away. So that's sort of where we're at the moment.
And so I can see here on this shot that there's, and when you go out further, you can really identify your place by a lot of tree plantations compared to what's surrounding. When did that sort of occur, and who's got the passion for doing that?
That's definitely my father's passion. So he would have started doing that probably 30 years ago. So he was president of the local land care group for a long time. And he did. We've planted a lot of trees over the years. So our farm is pretty much highlighted by those tree and shelter belts. So it does stand out a bit.
And we'll get onto it, but there's two things I'd like to draw that was interesting to me. One was that Aaron used to work for the Shire, so there's still hope for me to get back to farming after being a Shire employee. So, the passion's still not completely lost yet.
There's definitely still some good people in the local government, contrary to some belief.
I'm not sure you're including me in that or not, Aaron. So the other part that was quite interesting, and I joked with Aaron when I saw it, was, and we'll see it in a moment, but Aaron pointed out the hill that is on this property. And, when I also get the contours up, if I actually got the contours up for this property, which I've shown on the other ones, there is no contours. It's pretty flat, but there is a slight hill. And funnily enough, it's right underneath this cloud. So obviously the cloud there is being forced up by the massive hill that's in the middle of your place there, Aaron.
Yeah, that's our own Great Divide. So it obviously rains a lot more further south of that, and
And the other thing that is interesting here was this little spot just here with that different the different grazings or the different pattern just here. So what's this little area here?
So that is actually where the compost and grazing trial that we have had going with La Trobe University. So it's obviously it's in it's divided in three areas. So there's a control site which has no grazing, which is obviously the greener part. Obviously there's been no grazing there, so it looks nice and green. To the east of that, well, that's west. So the west side, that's where we sort of do our more higher density time controlled grazing, and the other side, the east side, is business as usual. So we would generally get around most things, anywhere between 4 to 6 times So a year.
So in this block, how many hectares are in this block here?
There'll be about 2,000 acres all up in this block, and then we've got another 500 acres northeast at Tandra.
So for those of us in the modern era, it's about 800 hectares. Yeah. So in that, got a question from Sally. What varieties of trees are planted on the property?
There's a variety of gums and wattles. I'm not all over the exact varieties, so you'll sort of see. Dad would have done a lot of that based on sort of plantings suggested at the time. So there's probably a lot more eucalypts than I would probably, and probably Dad would have liked in hindsight too. So as you can see from these photos, they sort of can take a fair bit from the ground, both in terms of moisture and it's difficult to keep ground cover adjacent to those trees. Maybe now we'd probably go for different varieties, so probably less eucalypts, more wattles maybe. Probably be a lot more, any plantings that were sort of done recently, a lot more focused on probably fodder types, so they're dual purpose. So.
And would you, is it bull oak country there, or is it still she oaks and those type of trees?
Yeah, there is some she oaks around. We don't have many left on our property. There's sort of a lot of them would have been cut down over the years. So that's what my grandfather would have come here, would have bought the property, and there was they could hardly go. Well, Dad was sort of saying they could hardly go spotlighting. There was sort of that many trees about, so he spent his time cutting them down, and Dad spent a lot of his time putting back in. So
we've got these tree plantations here, and you can certainly see the difference in where the pastures are compared, and what the trees are taking into the moisture, and not being able to actually have grasses in those areas. So do you graze underneath those tree plantations much, Aaron? Or
maybe once a year. There's not a lot that grows under them, but we would run something through it. Maybe once a year.
Yeah. So crash grazing through there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you had your previous property, and this was some soil tests that you took, and so it was interesting to me. So you had that smaller property, and what did you do there, and what's these soil tests sort of showing us?
So I guess when we first moved there, I took a soil test just for interest's sake, and then over the years it was again we just did grazing. So a lot of that time was we would still bring the cows here, or we trade some fat land, or do whatever we thought we could do. So we did do a lot of rotational grazing and split the paddocks up with mobile troughs and mobile electric fencing. So I guess that and then took another soil test a couple of years, 2017. So and we just showed some good results in terms of our organic carbon levels that increased quite a bit. So that was probably the main thing we got out of that soil test.
So you're you're trying to sort of prove to yourself on a smaller scale. So this was sort of your trial plots for what you're now doing on the bigger scale on the property. Is that?
Yeah. I suppose when I left the farm the first time, I sort of never lost the passion for farming, and we had the opportunity to buy a bit of property. So, and just, it's just a great opportunity to sort of do that. And then, and it's been, pretty exciting, the fact that I might replicate this maybe on a larger scale and hopefully do a better job of it.
Yeah. So the interesting ones, and and I'm no expert on soil tests. I've looked at a few hundred over my time, not a few thousand. So I'm no expert. Interestingly, they're April 1 in 2011, June 1 in 2017. It's really important when you take soil tests to get them roughly about the same time of year and roughly same sort of similar moisture. so that you can compare them. But over that 6-year period, you know, you're not going to get, it'll either be showing you a significant result or not much. The variability of taking them at, you know, 2 months difference is not in the time of year is not going to make a big difference. But moisture can play a big difference in soil tests. But the interesting numbers, you know, what I'd say is significant is phosphorus here has gone up from 21 to 27. So it's gone up from a good number to a really good number. And that to me is, you know, with my untrained eyes, you know, fairly significant. Potassium has gone up as well. You wouldn't want to get it much higher than that, but that's okay. You know, interesting what's going on here with the nitrogen. So it's gone from a nitrate and ammonia. So the ammonia is still a bit lower, but the nitrate has gone up. The pH, again, this pH in water, make sure you know what tests are being done, but pH in water has improved a little bit. But this organic matter is probably the one that you highlighted the most, Aaron, which is quite fascinating. So
yeah, and even the total nitrogen sort of, it's sort of a bit of a jump up when you compare it to. So it's just interesting. There wouldn't have been too much nitrogen put on the place, or none at all really. So over the time, so it's good result.
Yeah, so we're seeing these different results, and importantly, our cation exchange capacity, which is another good one, and the calcium magnesium ratios are all heading in the right direction. So, you know, so these are some really strong results to back up some of the things that we've been talking about, which that, you know, there isn't a lot of results about just implementing good grazing and with limited to no inputs of fertilizer. So this is, you know, a good set of results to demonstrate that. So we can see what is possible with basically just grazing. And you did do a little bit of cropping.
Yeah, we would have. 1 year I played around with a bit of pasture cropping. So, but I did. It was a challenging year, the year we tried it. So, but you can't always pick them.
Yeah, so all those were small scale sort of learning experiences on a smaller scale, wasn't it?
It's sort of 148. You know, at the time I obviously had the job with the local government, so this was just our little side project.
So one of the important parts you talked about was, you know, just having the movable trough. So here is the hill, and here is the water tank that supplies water. So what have you done to sort of help with that water infrastructure?
Yeah, so a long time ago, but probably previously when I was on the farm. So Dad and I would have installed a water tank on top of our hill. So it's still a hill to us. It might not be massive to other people, but we pump up to that tank. So from a dam that's near the creek. So that's a pretty reliable dam in terms of whether it's creek flow or we get a stock and domestic flow as well. We pump up to that tank, and then it's gravity feeds to, we've got it pretty much now that we can get to anywhere in our property with that water source. So we've added different, most of our pipe is actually buried, but have added just stuff on top at the moment, which I will get to bury down the track.
So this is, what size pipe is this that you're running around?
That one is 2 inch. It's either 2 inch or 1.5 inch pipe.
And what have you found with it above ground here?
It does have its challenges. It can get quite warm over the summer, so obviously it might get a little bit of shading from the trees where it is, but and especially at the colder months, it can contract a fair bit too. So you can sort of get the joiners pulling apart a little bit. So it's something to be wary of. But ideally, it would be buried. But at this stage, we were just trying to get it out there and get it going. So yeah, that's on the to-do list.
Yeah. So movable fencing, if you're ever going to be doing movable fencing, you need movable water. So here is Aaron's movable trough. So off this 2-inch pipe over to the movable troughs. So what have you got set up here?
Yeah, so that's just a saddle that goes over the pipe, and you drill a hole into it. So it's a good easy setup to install. I know you can get plug and play sort of setup, but we're pretty basic, so we're prepared to lose a little bit of water just to screw it on. So we might do the plug and play further down the track, but yeah, that's our current setup. A little bit.
So you just have a plug in that, and then when you want to move the trough, you just unscrew the plug and put
put a cap back on it. Yeah.
And then you just drag these troughs around wherever they're just normal plastic troughs.
Yep. So yeah, either on the ute or on the foot back of the 4-wheeler, or even with the tractor. So.
And what size are they? What, 300 or 400 litre ones? And,
yeah, I've got some. Yeah, we've got a few different size ones. So yeah, it does vary a little bit, and yeah, depend on the size of the mob or the herd.
Yeah. So what sort of size do you have? You know, do you adjust it for the herd size and mob flock size?
Yeah, we would. So, and we may even put a couple of troughs in it. Say if we've got a big area and a bigger mob, we might put a couple of troughs in, because that's the beauty about those saddles. It's very easy to add another point in. So, yep.
So just give us an idea what is it? Is there 2 troughs there, or just the 1 trough there?
There's 2 troughs there at the moment. Just sort of, just with the 200 heifers we got on at the moment. They even during winter they go through a fair bit of water. So yeah, it's just
so you got two of them for 200 dairy heifers that are 20 months old or something like that.
Yep.
Okay, just to give a bit of an idea for people. So tell us a little bit about the contract rearing and how you got into contract rearing dairy heifers. And as an old dairy extension officer, I know a fair bit about it, but lots of other people might not know that much about contract rearing.
Yeah, I suppose it's just a play on adjustment in some ways. So yeah, the cattle are weighed, as they come onto the property, and then obviously they'll be weighed when they leave the property as well. When we get paid on a per kilo basis of weight gain. And yeah, I guess the dairy farmers obviously like that, because they know the stock are actually doing what they're meant to be doing instead of coming back skinny. And it's usually a bit better money for us than just adjustment. And I suppose it's a bit of an encouragement just to do a reasonable job of it as well. So it works out pretty well for both parties.
So how long have you been doing that, and how did it start? And
we've been doing that for nearly 10 years now. So on and off. We don't do it all the time. Like some years we might only have them for 6 months or so. We've sort of gone the whole more than 12 months for the current lot we've got now. But yeah, it just got started with. Obviously, got a good friend who's got quite a large dairy farm north up at Calville. So yeah, that's how it got started, and we've just sort of continued that relationship.
And so, what does the weighing and that kind of thing? How does that help you in your grazing decisions, or does it help you?
Well, yeah, I guess it's good to know that you sort of know if they are doing a job. But it's been pretty consistent over time. Obviously, it's a little bit more difficult to keep the weight. Well, you can keep it's quite easy to keep the weight steady, but to keep adding weight over the winter and even the summer months is a little bit more challenging. But so yeah, you just get good feedback on how your stock are going. You sort of not waiting till the end to go, oh geez, we could have done or should have done better with that. So it's just a good continual feedback.
And you mentioned when I went out and took these photos that it's a nice little a regular cash income, or cash
Yeah,
flow income rather than the cropping, which is one.
that's sort of how we use it. It's a good safe income for us. It's definitely wouldn't be as good as buying the beef cows at the moment, and you're getting your $4 a kilo. But you're not to know that at the start of all that. So this is a good safe option for us. It's there's no costs to come in, and we get paid. For our points. 0.7 kilos a day. Every month we get paid on that basis, and then if we do better than that, which we usually do, we get a bonus at the end of that. So
you don't have to go out and purchase animals. So there's no big capital outlay to go and spend 200,000 or 300,000 to buy these animals. They come and you just put the weight on them.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a good safe option, especially when you're starting out, and it's a good, we're sort of only obviously 5 years into our business enterprise, so that cash flow every month's very handy.
So there's always different options for people to look into. So this one's a nice one, and it's always good for me to have some Holsteins in a presentation I do, because that's what I grew up around. So Holstein dairy cows. So I was very much at home watching these. Although these animals were big, they were very big Holstein cows.
Yes, yeah. They're big, nice big heifers.
And so, what do you do with these guys? So you move them regularly, and they're quiet and.
They actually dairy heifers they can be reasonably challenging to look after, as in they are big ones, and they do like to jump out and they sniff. Like, you definitely need the electric fence working. They get a sniff of that not working, they soon do like to go for a walk every now and then. So they got their challenges that way, but in terms of rotational grazing, it's a lot easier to do it with cows. A single wire is a lot easier to roll up and put out than it is with sheep. Where it might be 2 or 3 wires that might be required. So we have done a bit of that, but it's a nice, easier way to do that.
So you're putting up a single wire here using the Kiwi Tech system. It looks like, and
yep.
And this, what was this? Probably at least 200 or 300 meter span across that paddock, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was 2 or 3. Yeah, so sort of try not to go too much further than 400 to 500, but we have. The reels get a little bit big and bulky if you get above that, but we will do that if we have to. So yeah.
And you have done that. They have done it with sheep as well.
Yes. So we do, and it's sort of recently been doing that with our twin ewes, just lambing down, and actually instead of going bigger mob size, we're actually going smaller at lambing just for twin lamb survival, just trying to improve that. So we might go down to even 50 ewes and split them up with two wires. So they're both we have definitely done it with sheep. Yeah.
So there's a question here of what age do the dairy heifers, I assume, enter your property? Does that vary, or?
It does vary a little bit. We generally they'd be a minimum weight of 150 kilos. So that's they'd be minimum 6 months old before we get them. Yep. And they obviously go to the point of calving. So coming up to 2 years. We definitely don't go past that. We don't want them calving on the place.
But you've been you're part of the getting them in calf and all of those things that happen with.
Yeah, we we get them up. The dairy guys do all the organising and of the AIing and stuff like that. But we get them up. So yep.
Yeah. So AI. So do you don't artificial insemination for those listening that may not know what AI means? Do you have a bull that runs around with them after the AI is completed, or?
Yeah.
So similar. Just now moving on to the compost trial that you've got going there, and how did that come about? And it's with La Trobe University, I understand.
Yeah, so yeah, we're just probably through contacts with the CMA and like Trobe University, we're looking to run a few of these trials on different farms. So I can't remember off the top of my head, there's at least half a dozen properties that were involved. So yeah, the idea was to put compost out. So that's compost has been put out in strips, and then we've split the paddock up into three areas. So obviously the control where there's no grazing, our business as usual, which we've talked about, which is our 4 to 6 grazes a year is what we usually do. Obviously, in some ways we'd probably like to try and get to longer rest periods, and that's what we tried to do with that other block. So we only had sort of 2 to 3 grazings a year and at a higher stock density. So just trying to get more of that mob type grazing arrangement.
And do you know where the compost has come from, or?
So that's come from Stanhope. So I believe that's the green waste that's sort of come out of Bendigo, as far as I understand. So yeah, it did look like nice stuff when it arrived. So
and it's just spread as a lime truck or anything else would spread it, just as through a super spreader type arrangement? Or?
Yeah, so yeah, La Trobe obviously through the project organised someone to spread it. So yeah, we didn't have to do that ourselves.
Yeah, so 12 tons. So it must have
looked
fairly heavy.
Yeah, there was 2 applications. I think there was 5 ton done initially, and then there was another further 8 tons. So yeah, a good amount went out. So yeah, it was, and we're sort of quoted the $35 a ton. I think that's what they said it was going to be worth, what it was worth landed. Obviously, the project covered that for us, but yeah.
And then was that already on an established pasture, or did you sow into it? Or it seems like it could have been quite a depth.
Yeah, it was already established pasture. So yeah, it was obviously just put on top. It wasn't worked in or anything like that. So established pasture, but primarily lucerne, but yeah, obviously the annual grasses and herbs.
Yeah. So here is where I was on the 3rd of July taking this photo. The dairy heifers were grazing one patch of it, and you can see the tree, paddock tree here. So this is across the control. I think this is the control area here.
Yeah,
Aaron.
That's right.
And so they were over in the business as usual. So here's this tree again, and we've got another paddock tree here. Business as usual on this side.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yep.
And then this is the control ungrazed area.
Yep.
14th of September, 29th, business as usual, control. And then today, business as usual and control. So what's interesting is that that's the area where those dairy heifers were, and it was pretty well grazed out when I was there. So the response in that 6 weeks is here. So what do you think's happening here?
Visually, yeah, it's we haven't seen too much of a difference, or I can't see any difference between where the compost has been put out. So yeah, it'll be interesting when we get some more of the results from La Trobe University. So that there'll be some. Well, there'll be obviously chemical results, and then there'll be also the biological results as well, and there will be some sort of ground cover results as well. So yeah, it will be interesting to see if there's much of a difference. But visually, doesn't seem a lot with the compost. Obviously, yeah, visually it can look very different with the different grazing regimes, but at initial stage, I don't know whether there's a huge difference there just at this stage.
So there was a compost strip
Yeah, going left to right on that screen. So they would have done them in. So they would have done a strip of compost. They would have had a break, another strip, another break. Yeah, so sort of replicated across the site.
So yeah, across the whole site that way.
Yeah.
And then this fence was put up sort of across it. Is that?
Yes. Yep. That's for the different grazing regimes.
Yeah. So we hope to have Jim Radford is going to do a talk with us on I'm just looking, the 9th of November, and he'll cover off some of the research that he's found or finding out from this site. So tune in on the 9th of November to hear Jim talk about this site and maybe some other things that he's involved in. And then this one is, again, here's our control with no grazing, and then this is the time with a slightly heavier stocking rate and graze 3 times a year. So when you say 3 times a year, what times a year is that?
Oh, it sort of varied over the project. So, but yeah, generally we try to obviously do one probably in the spring. There would have been one in the autumn, and then maybe been one in the winter. So
yeah.
But we did go pretty hard on that set that one last year in the springtime, but it sort of responded back very well. We tried to get some non-selective grazing on that one, so we went pretty hard there.
So you can see here within that sort of 6-week period, you can see all that lucerne is regrown within this paddock. So what are these paddocks sort of sown down to, or what do they have growing in them?
This would have just been sown down to lucerne in canola. So it would have been a canola rotation under sown with lucerne, and then we would have then we sowed barley into that afterwards, and then we've just let it go to pasture after that. So it'll be just annual grasses and weeds. So
yeah,
with the lucerne.
With the spread out of lucerne in amongst it.
Yeah.
And why lucerne? Why is lucerne?
Lucerne's been a pretty successful plant in our area. So there's most pastures would have some lucerne in it. The guys that are grazing, obviously the croppers aren't as excited about lucerne as the graziers, but it's just been very successful. So it's been growing in the area for a long time. Our soil types are able to grow it. So, it's a great protein source. It's sort of, it does have its limitations. It's, the paddocks can be quite easily bared out with it. I guess it's maybe a little bit too successful for our own good. But that's something we're working on, trying to get that ground cover to, complement the lucerne.
Yeah. So for you, it's that protein source through the summer months it's beneficial in that grazing system.
It is. It's always good to have that protein source. So I think our limitation is probably almost energy. I think at this stage when we've got lucerne. So, and it does respond to summer rains. It's sort of it's very flexible and responsive in that regard. So it does make it easier to put to grow out animals having that protein source. So
So there are lots of different varieties of lucerne for different temperatures, but there is it aluminium it's the most sensitive too, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
So different soil types, lucerne won't like because of the aluminium levels or that cation exchange. So it's always important to have a look. So is there anything else around this that you'd like to point out with this trial?
No, it was just good to sort of go a little bit more intensive in terms of our grazing and see a good response back from that. And the control grazing where there was no grazing, because the project has finished, we have put animals on it since. So it was good to see what was there, over the year with no grazing at all. And so where there was no grazing for 12 months, the autumn feed does seem very good in that area, but again, we just sort of, how practical it would be to have that 12-month rest. That would be, something to investigate further, I guess.
So plant density through that ungrazed area for 12 months, would you say was better or worse? Or
looking at it now, I don't see a huge difference, to be honest. Obviously, the ground cover would have been, it would have been greater initially because, you're just not taking anything off it and it's sort of sitting there. And I think it does respond a lot better, to autumn rains. So, but, it's just the practicality of given that 12-month rest.
Yeah. So a question here, would you consider grazing at a higher intensity with a longer rest, seeing what's happened here? Or
yeah, that is something, that definitely we want to keep working towards. So I think it's, I think at least a 3 to 6 month rest period would probably be, depending on the time of year, would be really good for us, I think.
Yeah. So on last week's discussion, we talked a little bit about sowing and what kind of sowing. Tell us a little bit about this machine that you've recently purchased.
We've spent big. It's just a old John Shearer. So we did have a disc seeder. We're going back to a tine. Just found it. It's going to be just a bit more practical in terms of for our cropping, and also and the fact that we're still running stock. I just did like the idea of actually just having some soil disturbance, not no soil disturbance. So
tell us a little bit how old. It doesn't look brand spanking new, at least the paint doesn't. So how old would this machine be?
I'm not sure how old it is. That's a reasonable age, but it's in not too bad a nick.
So a reasonable age, what are you saying? Is it 15 or 30 years?
Be 15 plus, I assume.
Yeah. And so what's this one up here for those that haven't seen one of these machines? What's this part?
That obviously holds. There's grain and fertilizer box up there. So that's split in two, and that smaller box is for the small seeds. So that's where we might put our lucerne or clover or grazing brassica through that.
So you can put your bigger seed through these points.
Yep.
At a depth, and then these smaller seeds sort of dribble on top. Is that?
Yeah, dribble on top, and then they get their soil contact from the press wheels behind them.
And these wheels sort of just press the soil down, but also press the seed that comes out into the soil contact.
Yeah, into the slot. Yep.
So you can have two different seed sizes and sow them at the correct size and with one pass.
Yep.
So what have you been sowing with this machine and been having a go at?
We've done our normal crop rotations. So whether that's canola, wheat, barley, and oats and vetch. But I have done one cover crop this year that we have sown perennial ryegrass and some grazing brassica, along with some lucerne and some oats. So
And so what was that trial? What were you doing that for?
I guess one of the things we're trying to do is trying to get a perennial grass established on the place. So that is that's probably the main purpose with it. So we're still sowing a little bit of lucerne with it, but we are trying to get some perennial grasses into our system.
So how's, with that inch rainfall through that summer period per month, do you think your perennial grasses will be able to survive through that period and that hot?
Well, that's the bit we've got to investigate a bit further. We've been pretty lucky the last 12 to 18 months with the weather we've had. So we've had good results with it in the last 18 months. But it will be interesting to see how it persists when we have sort of those hot, drier summers.
So here's one of those. So what are we looking at here on the 9th of?
So that would have been similar to what we sowed this year. So that, again, that was a lucerne perennial ryegrass. And we would have sown that with the cover crop, which was a grazing brassica and oats. But yeah, you can sort of see in the 9th of Feb, we did have we had a good rain. We had nearly 60, we had over 60 mil before that, just at the end of end of January. So, but yeah, it was a good response. And I guess perennial ryegrass is not known to be a big summer active plant. It's more of a cool season variety.
So did you graze these oats and grazing brassica? Is that what you've?
Yeah, in that paddock we did.
Here?
Yeah, we did graze that one. Another paddock, just because we had excess feed, which was a nice problem to have. We sort of took it to grain, so sort of did take the oats and the grazing brassica off for seed.
Yep. And then here's where I was, and then this is today. So you can see it's just starting to get really motivated now compared to 6 weeks ago. It was still pretty cold and not doing a lot, but looks like it's starting to get motivated now.
Yeah, it is just starting to kick off. So yeah, it'd be good to see how that goes when it's been going for a bit longer than we've been sowing 18 months ago. So yeah, be interesting to see how it goes.
I think I've missed a couple of questions. Have you thought about native grasses?
Not to sow. Just it's really expensive, really expensive stuff to buy. I've got no problems with native grasses coming through, but yeah, feed value wise, I'm not super excited by the feed value of native grasses. It's not, they've definitely got their place, and I wouldn't get rid of them in the pasture, but yeah, definitely. I just don't think there would be a cost benefit in sowing native grasses. It's just it's a pretty expensive thing to establish. We've found it difficult to get native grasses to come back to regenerate, I guess. We might get the odd ones, but they don't tend to be a great feed value grasses that come in.
Yeah, so the grasses that you do see, do you see kangaroo grass, wallaby grass, or mainly what? There'd
be patches of kangaroo grass in our area, but that'd be more on roadsides. I've never seen kangaroo grass come onto our place here at Raywood. We did have some at Woodvale where we were, and then we might get some red grass, wallaby grass. There'll be windmill grass, but and probably some spear grass, but again, not great value, some of those.
Yeah, and what type of brassica do you use in your grazing mix?
The variety is Sub-Zero grazing brassica.
Okay, hope that's answered a few questions. I don't think I've missed any in the chat. So this is just an example of the lucerne starting to germinate and get going even in July with the ryegrass, which it's quite interesting to me to see the lucerne still happy and growing at that time of year. So what are the plans for the future, and what are you continuing to have a go at and change? And
I guess our plans is obviously to stay in business and try and just trying to keep improve our bottom line. Obviously just be nice to sort of get sort of some baselines in terms of benchmarking on some landscape function aspects. I've sort of gone down the benchmarking side of things in terms of our financial side of things. So it'd be good to sort of back that up with some, to make sure that actually our land is improving and doing what it's meant to be doing. So that's probably one of our focuses going ahead, and just trying to improve our grazing setup and see what we can do in terms of the cropping side of things. That's probably a bit more challenging on finding in terms of trying to improve things.
Yep. So there was So please ask your questions through the Zoom feature, or put up your hand. If you don't want to type, put up your hand, and using the Zoom feature. If you look at trying to do that, I'll try and get to your questions. There's a question here from earlier on. Can you identify what the shoulder belts and remnant paddock trees contribute to the property? Can you identify what they, their value to the property?
So the benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously there's benefits with having trees in terms of shelter and shade. No doubt about that. That obviously has its advantages in terms of our livestock operation. In terms of our cropping operation, it's probably more of a challenge for that. That's one of the things that we've recently signed up to do part of this natural capital accounting. So that will be looking forward to seeing that. They're going to sort of look at our bird life and insect life and sort of more of that natural stuff. So it will be interesting. They're going to look at the differences between our shelter and remnant vegetation and also our grazing and cropping land. So I'm looking forward to seeing what benefits there actually is.
So going into a little bit more detail about that, what is natural capital accounting, and what's the idea behind all of that, as you understand?
I think we're just trying to put a value to to the natural assets on the place. So not just what production wise we produce, also sort of the natural side of things as well. So
So do you believe that some of the you can still see some paddock trees, although a lot of it would have been cleared, but there was still a couple of paddock trees in that control and that kind of stuff. What do you think they bring? Do they help with natural predators and keeping everything in balance? Do you have massive lucerne flea or any of those type of things?
We still get lucerne flea and red-legged earth mites and all that sort of stuff. So and that's what it'd be nice to see whether natural capital accounting can identify some of the some of those things for our integrated pest management, I guess. So
another question is how do you choose what type of grasses should be included into your pasture mix?
So the perennial ryegrass, it's actually a hybrid between perennial ryegrass and tan rye. So it's just been recommended by our agronomist to give that one a go, and it seems to be going pretty well so far. But I think the real test is going to be, say, in 3 or 4 years' time, to see whether it persists or not. Looks quite good at the moment, but hopefully it persists. We're not sowing it every 4 or 5 years, I guess.
Yeah. What's your ideal pasture mix? So talk us through what you're actually sowing. Is it 6 or 8 pasture species, or what have you found in that?
I guess that pasture mix is more. A lot of that is just short term, so it is cover. So whether that's the oats, the grazing brassica, you can get a little bit longer than 12 months with the grazing brassica, but that's what we're traditionally. It's been lucerne, and we're trying to get a bit more than just lucerne. And that perennial grass is obviously it's been highlighted on the potential benefits it has. So it's just finding something that will actually suit our area and has some good production values as well.
So you put in that brassica and oats as a cover for the establishment of those other species. Is that sort of the plan you're working on?
Yeah, it has been, just for the establishment of the pastures. It's just instead of just going in bare and just getting some value straight away. And obviously, it provides a bit of cover for that as well. It seems to be working okay. It doesn't seem to be taken away from those pasture species that we're putting in. And that's that's part of the cover cropping. Sort of do like. I don't put a heap down. We seem to obviously we will spray our paddocks out before we sow them, and then whatever comes up along with what we sow is probably add to the variety without having to sow the variety, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So we're getting extraordinarily close to the 8 o'clock, and Aaron's agreed to stay on for a little bit longer after 8, where we'll open up for questions and continue the conversation if you'd like. But I wish to just remind you of our upcoming events that are coming up, and if anything has interested you out of today, please look particularly the compost and natural accounting. As I said, will be coming up soon, but these are some of the events, and stay up to date with the project. And I wish to thank our partners in this, which is Masterton Ranges Shire, Hatburn Shire Council, and particularly the City of Greater Bendigo, Melbourne Water, and the Healthy Colburn Catchment with Upper Capacity Land Care Network. So thank you very much. As you're aware, a recording's been made, and we'll inform you when it is uploaded. So if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and showing Aaron a small token of your appreciation.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're more than welcome to hang around for a little bit and ask questions. I understand some people don't like asking questions when we're being recorded. Also understand people that don't necessarily want to type questions in. So that's why we have this part now, so that you can ask any questions. Got a question here from Scott. With the removable fences, have you found certain fencing methods more user-friendly than others?
Sort of, yeah, just the different stepping posts are probably a bit like initially we started with some tail drop stepping posts. They sort of, yeah, especially in our summer months, they can be pretty hard to step in. You actually don't get to step them in, you got to bang them in. So we have gone to the Kiwi Tech system and do like that. It's do like the flexibility and with that system. So yeah, that's probably one we've found the best.
I'm gonna get you to edit that account name.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you should.